is our mini podcast series. It is tiny, it is small, and it is cutesy on purpose. We're calling this Unmasking, the new success strategy for women of color. And this goes out to all women because everybody's a different shade, everybody's a different flavor. But we are women of color and we just met. My name is Bahati Hart. I am a life architect, an author, and speaker. And I'm also the creator of systems that blend science and spirituality and humor to help people design their new life blueprint. And I'm here to introduce my new friend from across the water, from across the pond, Lucy.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I'm Lucy. I'm the radical brand strategist and founder of Secret Language. So I work on connecting people with their true voice and helping visionary founders build the new world. So I'm really excited for to have this conversation today. I feel like it's
Oh,
been a
me
long time
too.
coming. Yeah.
Me too. Lucy, the reason why we're here, and I want everyone to know this, is that I feel very passionate about two things. Number one, the world is going through a lot of things. The loneliness epidemic, according to the World Health Organization, everybody's feeling lonely and they're feeling isolated and disconnected. And then also in the US, we're feeling trauma. There's a national trauma epidemic. And as someone who lives in the Chicago area, the world is watching and they see what's happening. And so you can only imagine the level of intensity. And so I wanted us to be a light. You know, we met on LinkedIn and we reached across and we connected a couple times, and the light that we both share has just been so dynamic and magnetic. And so I wanted to highlight how just reaching across and meeting someone who shares your vision, who shares your passion, can become something amazing. So this is why we're doing this series here. We're both women who were released from the chains of the traditional workforce, and instead of collapsing, we rose and we became radically creative. We started deprogramming ourselves from the old systems and stepping forward as guides for the new world. And so again, meeting on LinkedIn, that's one of many spaces. And now we are going to share our intelligence, and we're going to enlighten others, and we're going to spread freedom like wildfire.
Oh man. Yes.
So tell them what this series is about.
Yeah, and it's beautiful that the way that you describe it, because this really is our living testimony, you know? Like it's like this is our lived experience. And I think when you say like spread freedom like wildfire, for me, like freeing myself started with seeing other people who are free, right? And it's
Yes.
like until you see that, and until you have the example of that, it's so hard to imagine something outside of the reality you're living. And like you said, the reality right now is so much. So I think when we connected and when we first had a conversation, I remember just like coming off the call, like grinning, right? It's just like
Yeah.
that light, that fire is ignited. So that's what I hope this conversation will be for others, that kind of almost toolkit of this is how you can liberate yourself.
Absolutely. Now, look, this is going to be girl talk, but everyone should and could listen in. So I want to just jump right into it. We're going to start with my first question for you, Lucy. This is again about statistics here in the US. I just read this morning that the numbers have climbed up. There's over 500,000 women who have left the workforce. 300,000 plus of those are Black women who've left the workforce by different means, right? Like, again, you and I left on our own for our own reasons. I was kind of pushed out the door. So I want to know from your perspective, though, Lucy, as a brand strategist who consults women who are driven, what's that fundamental breakdown of the old system that's leading to these massive walkouts or this massive release of women from workforce?
Well, I feel like in the old world, the old system, they thought that we would work for them doing the things that they wanted us to do, you know? And I think what's happened is so many women have awakened to their true power. And I think when you awaken to your power, you realize like how much possibility there is. And instead of like taking the concessions that you once thought, you know, when I was first working, like that's how I felt like, oh, thank you. Like, thank you for this job. Like, thank you for this opportunity. What can I
Yeah.
do to prove myself to you? How can I please you? What can I work on that will make you feel better about me? And actually, like the realignment of seeing my own power, feeling my own power suddenly made me realize like, wow, like if I'm this powerful, like what am I using that power to do? Like what are my skills truly building? What am I shaping? And I think when you zoom out and you look at the world, you really start to have to wonder like, am I actually building the world I want to be part of? Or am I like actually still propping up systems that crushed me, right? That crushed my
Yeah.
communities. And so when you like take stock of that, I think that's what so many women are doing as well, is like realizing their power and seeing like actually like I could do so many things, and am I in
Yes.
the right place? Am I being treated like the way I should be treated? And where can I go where like my power will be not only respected and you know like honored, but truly uplifted, like truly pushed to like a new level.
Yes. And sometimes that means being on your own and pouring into your
Mm.
own cup, filling that up on your own. I want to talk about the mask because when you talk about power, I feel like women sometimes we hide behind the things that society says we should do, like you said, right? And that hiding behind to me is symbolic of wearing a mask. And so let's talk about that. When was that moment that you realized that you were wearing a mask and that it was suffocating you? Like, what is the most common soul crushing behavior that we do as women wearing these masks that we adopt in these corporate cultures? And tell me about that moment for you when it finally dropped and you can breathe and just take that deep inhalation and say, I found my power. I'm taking my power back. I'm taking my sovereignty back.
Mm. For me, it was actually fatigue. Like, you know, when you
Mm.
have a deep sense of tiredness that like
Oh my
nothing
gosh.
can shake. And the way I would like, you know, I'll take my holiday, I'll take my days off, and I would like come back to these offices and I would just be like so drained. And I think what's so interesting is like when you're trying to perform over that feeling, it's like you can still like bring energy and you can still like smile at everyone. You can still like do the best job that you can and like work as much as you can. But there's something deeper that is misaligned. And so it's like you're trying to almost like paper over all of these cracks, you know, and like whatever you pour in, it just like pours straight back out. And I think
Yes.
for me, that has been the biggest shift in terms of actually moving into a life that's aligned is the energy that I have. Like I think before I used to think like, oh, I'm burned out or oh, I'm working too hard. Like honestly, transparently, starting my business, I'm still working kind of a lot and like sometimes all hours of the day, you know. And in a wellness
Yes.
sense, that's not necessarily something that you think would be, you know, it's like, oh, you need to take time out. But when you have the energy for things, like I didn't realize how much more energy I actually had to pour into the projects I cared about, you know.
Hmm.
And that for me was the biggest moment of oh my gosh, like this like feeling that I'm like performing actually has been what's like draining like all of this energy within.
Oh my gosh, yes. I want to take that question too because you said something really important that burnout can turn into crash out. And that is the story of my life. The crash out for me when the mask came down was physical, right? So that burnout, we know consciously that we're exhausted, but physically our body will start rejecting those things, those fears and those traumas, and it can manifest itself into illness. It can manifest itself into injury. It can manifest itself into depression and all those things, right? And so paying attention to when that mask finally does drop and we're like, look, now we're going to drop it, um, the physiology of our body and what our body is telling us, and those special spaces in our body that hold all that energy that we've been holding for everyone else, when it finally comes crumbling down, it's a lot. So they call it soul crushing. I don't want to even claim it as that because again, when you're in the dark night of the soul, when you're in those quiet moments of pause and you really get to reflect on your why, there's that little flicker of light that comes through, and you have to pay attention to that. And that, to me, that moment when I was down and I just said, you know what? I'm gonna take care of me now. I am the priority. Now, Lucy, I just want to like let the audience know we are from different generations. If they couldn't tell already. But no, we're from different generations. And what I think is so beautiful about our relationship and our friendship that we're building is that we are going through similar things, but we're also finding our way out in similar ways. And so this is to me across the board as a woman in general. This isn't about a Gen Xer and a Gen Z adjacent.
Cusp Gen Z is really how I like to
Right.
describe it.
This is across the board, honey, no matter what your age range, shape, color is. Like women are crashing out and burning out. And so I want to be mindful of that. Like if you need help, therapy, coaching, friendships, create your circle, create your tribe. Do not sit there in silence and suffer in silence.
And I always say to people in those moments as well, like those moments of complete crash out are like the best moments ever.
Hmm.
Like they feel horrible in the moment. Like you feel like everything in my life is falling apart, like all of these elements, because it's like everything always happens at once. But truly, like when you don't resist that, like when you actually lean into it, when you allow everything to be broken apart and just like that feeling
Hmm.
of surrender and just like, okay, like I have nothing left, like lead me to where I should go. Like the things that can emerge in that space are so, so beautiful. And I think it's just that
Oh my
it
gosh,
takes so
yes.
much courage to like let go of that control and allow it to unfold.
Oh my gosh, yes. And as artists and as creatives, we love a blank canvas, honey. Don't we?
Truly.
We love a blank canvas. Um,
We love
yes.
a blank canvas.
Hmm.
I wanted to ask you as well because you really help women move from this idea of like not being broken, like I'm not
Hmm.
broken, to I'm becoming, right?
Hmm.
Which is so powerful. And so I'm wondering, like, what's the biggest, like, fear story or like trauma narrative that you have that really helps people like deprogram so that they can see that path to sovereignty, like from survival to
Hmm.
sovereignty?
Hmm. Well, my duty is to help people remember who they are. And I say that so genuinely because I went through it and I built a system around it and I wrote a book about it. But remembering who you
Mm.
are has so many facets and levels, and it starts with just where you are now. So when we talk about the breakdown, and the blank canvas. It's like remembering what your gifts and talents are. But beyond that, remembering who you are in your DNA, the warrior tribes that you've come from, the cultural significance of your people. And then even beyond that, if you want to get really mystical and magical, we can go into astrology, we can go into human design. I love to help people trace back their beginning and then align it to where they are today so they can rewrite the systems that they've just come out of. It sounds very Matrix-like, but it's not. But hey, potato potato, to each its own. But what I really truly am great at, and I've thought about this even when I was thinking about taking my own power back and becoming again, for 2 decades, I've helped people design their lives in a transition. And so I'm very good at reminding people that you already have everything, you already have all the tools, you have all the degrees, you have everything you need in your toolkit. It's just a matter of organizing it and redesigning it and reimagining what that needs to look like. So to me, the remembrance piece is so key and crucial to the becoming because you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been.
It's so beautiful and it's so true. And I think that piece around the qualifications is so true, right? That, and I see this especially with Black women, where it's like we feel like we have to, have every like certification, like course, degree under
Girl,
the sun. But when you come
girl.
back to that remembering, it's like you were literally already qualified. Like you didn't, like, obviously
Yeah.
the education is amazing, but there are so many
Yeah.
ways in which we have everything we need.
Yeah. When I started this work, becoming a life architect, um, and I say life architect because I'm beyond a life coach. I am a life coach, but I use design systems and strategic planning and different things in different ways for people to design it. One of the things I told myself was, what do you really want to do now? Because you can continue doing the work that you've done, but you're tired, girl, you're tired. And you don't want to go back to school and you don't want to get another degree, like you said. So I was like, what do I truly, in my heart of hearts, deep, deep down, want to do? And I said, I want to talk, I want to play, and I want to learn.
Mm.
So what does that look like? Right. And so I think you and I found each other right at this moment because even in that, those are just very generic terms. I'm like, okay, now what do I do? So Lucy, you work with
Mm.
people, helping them find their true voice beyond assimilating, right? Because again, I think our nature is, well, I got all these things and I've done it, so let me keep doing it. But that is not fulfilling your heart's passion and purpose. So for a woman who spent years code switching, myself included, and minimizing herself. How do you practically guide people to uncover the voice they might not even recognize anymore?
Mm, it's such a beautiful question.
Yeah.
I feel it so deeply because
Mhm.
voice, it's something that can lead each of us back to ourselves. And I think so often we forget that, like within each of our bodies, it's like we have the source of everything we need. It's like the
Mhm.
voice is so powerful. And so much of it is actually about embodiment. Like
Yeah.
it's when you think about the voice, like it's so much a part of the body that it can really give you clues to everything
Yeah.
that's going on. And so a practice that I like to do a lot is have people actually practice saying a lot of the things that they say in their life, right? So maybe it's things that they're used to saying at work, like, oh, like everything on this project is going so well, or like whatever it is. I'm really like feeling where that voice comes from. Because something that I had to learn is like there was a lot of my life where I was operating with a false voice. Like it wasn't my true voice, it was a false voice. It was a vo voice that I had learned in order to please others, in order to fit into systems,
A
assimilate, like you
practice
say.
narrative, a practice narrative.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it becomes so innate that you believe it to be yours. And so you really
Yes.
take it on. And it's like actually being able to identify it and have that awareness so that you can start like stripping it back. And for me,
Mm.
it was like such a journey of just like coming into connection with what does that feel like in my body? Like not what does it sound like? Sometimes it sounds even
Mm.
different. Sometimes it's higher and you're like, oh, like trying to speak like
Yeah.
this. Like whatever it is for you. Sometimes people are speaking so much because they're trying to fill the space,
Yeah.
and sometimes people are not speaking at all because they don't feel like actually their voice is important at all. And so it's understanding, okay, like what does that feel like for me? And then also connecting with when it feels true. Because I know for me, when I'm saying something that like comes from the heart, or like when I'm connecting, with someone like you, where I feel that affinity or I see the light reflected back, it's like my voice is coming from a totally different place. Like I can feel it in my body.
Yes.
I feel the
Yes.
resonance, right? Like, and it's like, it's truly magnetic. And so being able to separate those two voices and then really come into connection with that true voice. And every time you're slipping out, really like bringing yourself back, it's such a transformative practice. It's such a transformative way of changing your life.
Lucy, I see you with your hand over your heart, and I want to just kind of pivot and give some time to that concept of the feeling of what we say, right? Because to your point, like we're so practiced in saying the things, and we don't
Yeah.
feel into the things that we say. When you and I talk, there is such a lightness, right? The body feels lighter, feels happier. It's very playful. Our conversations are very
Mm.
playful and
Mhm.
also very empowering, right? Because
Mhm.
even though we're from two different worlds, literally two different continents, we share the same kind of passion and vision for uplifting other people and reminding them who they are through true voice, through remembering and coaching. I love the concept of heart intelligence so much that it is in the brand that I'm working from. It is the charge really because we live in a time where we have a PhD in mental health, but we have a baby's grasp in heart intelligence. And heart
Yeah.
intelligence, or there's a organization called Heart Math Institute, and they're not sponsoring this, but maybe they will one day. But Heart Math Institute has done the research and the science behind the heart being the first brain and being the magnetic force for how we experience the world. And so I found that so fascinating that I was like, this needs to be a part of what I do moving forward. And I find that even in your true voice, the way you operate as a brand strategist, that is very similar to that. So when I see you touching your heart, that's just a reminder to me and to everyone that's listening that the feeling starts here. Don't start here. It starts
Hmm.
here.
And that's the qualification, right? Like that is what I'm so
Yeah.
deeply qualified in. Like aside from all of the experience in brand agencies and all of these things, it's like actually it's the heart. And it was when I
Yeah.
started my spiritual practice, like yoga and different practices that led me back to the heart, that then my voice was able to truly emerge.
Yes.
And as you say, it's like that wisdom has been held for generations, but in our generations it's been so erased, and so much
Yeah.
of that, so much of colonialism like erased that
Yeah.
wisdom as well. And so like reclaiming that and treating that as just as important, just as vital as the more
Mhm.
like intellectual way of like pursuing knowledge is just so amazing. And that is true
Yeah.
intelligence when those things come together.
Yes. And let's just say the thing, Lucy, let's be radical because you're all about radical authenticity, but the feelingness, the emotional intelligence is a divine feminine energy. That's what it is. And that can be held by anybody. You can be a man and still be very divine and feminine. And that feminine energy is about caring for others, compassion, wisdom,
Mm.
nurturing, creativity, all of those things. And so I feel like the world has, to your point, like we've reversed it and we stay stuck in the mind, not realizing that the energy and the messaging is coming from the heart. So talk to me more about how can we be more radically authentic? What is that? What does that mean? Because that's a term you use, and I find it so fascinating, especially the term radical. Like I love that because it's so
Mm.
intentional and it's so brave and it's so audacious. So tell me about radical authenticity.
And it's so interesting, right? Because I feel like when I first was using the word radical, and this goes way back to when I was like a teenager and I was very much like raging against the system and like really, in my activist, like angry era. But I think radical for me has evolved so much where that rage and that fire is still there, but it's really like with a focus on love, like moving towards
Hmm.
love. And I think like
Yes.
what radical is authenticity. Like it's radical to be authentic in this world. And that's
Hmm.
what I kind of came to, that like to return to yourself, to speak with your true voice, to allow these things to flow out of you in a world like this one. It's like the most radical thing you can possibly do, but it takes so much courage. And it's that we're building. And it's that which, when we come together, especially as women or like divine feminine beings as well, I
Hmm.
love that you speak that energy into the
Say what I
collective.
need to say.
Yes, like that is what is like being born and
Yeah.
that is what is being birthed. And I think like that to be authentic, it's so scary because you have all of these like conditionings of like, oh my gosh, if I like say this thing, I could lose the job or I could lose the lover or like my family
Yeah.
could reject me or like all of these things. And I think so much of life is really coming to that sense of this life is for me to be who I am. And like I have all
Mhm.
of these reasons not to be who I am, but this life is here for me to be who I am. And like when you come to that and when you live that, so many magical things start happening, like you can't even believe.
Yes, thank you so much. Being radical is the unmasking at this point. That is what we're trying to convey in this conversation is, being radical doesn't mean you got to break shit and tear the walls down. It's coming back to self and being
Mm,
honest with self and finding and remembering and all the things that we just talked about. And so as we close this first episode here, I want to talk about how life is changing dramatically. And again, people are living in fear and there's a lot of contradiction out there. So we must be really mindful about the things. But I also want people to start paying attention to those little miracles and surprises that we never noticed before. And I heard this beautiful quote from this young TikToker.
mm.
And as a gardener, as a plant mom, it resonated with me so deeply. And so I want to offer this to those who are listening as you are in this season of change and radical transformation and finding your authenticity and remembering who you are. You are planting a garden in
Mm,
soil that has
mm,
not seen your seed yet. And so, Lucy, I want you to take us home with a sovereign meditation. We're calling this Awakening is Remembering.
Awakening is remembering. And I wanted to honor the heart intelligence that we've been speaking about and invite anybody who's been listening to this and sharing in this space with us to really come into their hearts. So we're going to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just let the noise of the day fall away. Whatever you've been doing, just let it fall away. Now you've listened to these stories of awakening. And now this is your invitation to come home to your own awakening. Because for so long we've been told that success means holding it all together. But awakening, it's not about holding, it's about releasing. It's the sacred unraveling that makes space for who you really are in all your radical authenticity. So, wherever you feel the tension, maybe you feel it in your jaw, maybe you've been speaking with that false voice, maybe you feel it in your chest, in your neck, your heart, wherever it is, just breathe softness into it. You can let it go because you don't need to earn rest and you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. And you do not need to keep carrying around stories that were never yours to hold. You are awakening, not into someone new, but into the truth that has always been waiting for you underneath the mask. So may this week bring clarity wherever there's been confusion. May it bring peace to you wherever there's been performance. And it's our hope that your awakening ripples out. We know it's going to free not just you, but everyone who hears your story, just like you've just heard ours. So take one last breath. And you can exhale the old world or the old life or whatever you're walking out of. And now you can inhale the new one, or the possibilities, or the gifts that are going to come out of you. You are the revolution, alive, remembering, and becoming. And we finish with I say.
Okay. Thank you, my sister.